Sean Combs, known to the world as Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or simply Diddy, emerged from the streets of Harlem to become one of the most influential figures in hip-hop and entertainment. Born on November 4, 1969, in New York City, Combs grew up in Mount Vernon, raised by his mother Janice, after his father Melvin was killed when Sean was just 2 years old. His early life was marked by hustle, whether it was selling newspapers or working as a party promoter. Combs's ambition was evident even as a teenager, and it carried him to Howard University, where he studied business before dropping out to pursue a career in music. In the early 1990s, Combs landed an internship at Uptown Records, quickly rising to become an A&R executive. His knack for spotting talent and shaping the sound of hip-hop and R&B was undeniable. He worked with artists like Mary J. Blige and Jodeci, helping to define the new jack swing era. But Combs's vision extended beyond the studio. In 1993, after a falling out with Uptown, he founded Bad Boy Entertainment, a label that would become synonymous with the East Coast rap scene. Bad Boy launched the careers of icons like the Notorious B.I.G, Faith Evans, and Mike Pay and Combs. Himself became a larger-than-life figure, blending music, fashion, and business into a billion-dollar empire. By the late 1990s, Combs was more than a producer. He was a cultural force. His debut album, No Way Out, 1997, went multi-platinum, earning him a Grammy for Best Rap Album. He expanded into fashion with his Sean John clothing line, which became a staple in urban fashion, and later secured lucrative deals like his partnership with Diageo to promote Ciroc vodka. By the 2000s, Combs was a mogul, starring in reality TV shows like Making the Band and rubbing shoulders with Hollywood's elite. His lavish parties, dubbed white parties, were legendary, attended by A-listers like Jay-Z, Beyoncé, and Leonardo DiCaprio. To the public, Diddy was untouchable, a symbol of success, charisma, and power. But beneath the glitz, whispers of a darker side began to surface. As early as the 1990s, Combs faced legal troubles that hinted at a volatile personality. In 1991, while still at Uptown, he was involved in a tragic incident at a charity basketball game he co-organized at City College of New York. The event was oversold, and a stampede led to 9 deaths and numerous injuries. Combs was not criminally charged, but the incident cast a shadow over his early career, with critics questioning his judgment and responsibility. More serious allegations emerged in 1999 during a nightclub shooting at Club New York in Manhattan. Combs, along with his bad boy signee, Jamal Shine Barrow, and then girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, were at the center of a chaotic altercation. According to court testimony, an argument with a patron named Matthew Scar Allen escalated and gunfire erupted, injuring 3 people. Prosecutors alleged that Combs and Shine drew guns, with a witness claiming both fired shots. Combs was charged with weapons possession and bribery, accused of offering his driver $50,000 to claim ownership of a gun found in his car. After a highly publicized trial, Combs was acquitted, while Shine was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. The case fueled speculation about Combs's influence and whether he had escaped accountability due to his wealth and connections. These early incidents, while serious, were often overshadowed by Combs's rising star. He was a master of reinvention, adopting new monikers, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, and later Brother Love, to stay relevant. But the nightclub shooting left a lingering question. Was Combs's polished image hiding a more controlling and aggressive persona? Former associates began to speak out, albeit quietly. In the early 2000s, rumors circulated about his domineering behavior at Bad Boy. Some artists, like Mace, claimed Combs withheld publishing rights and royalties, forcing them into unfavorable contracts. Others described a workplace culture driven by fear, with Combs allegedly using his power to intimidate employees and artists alike. One of the earliest public allegations of misconduct came from Kirk Burroughs, a co-founder of Bad Boy Entertainment. In a lawsuit filed years later, Burroughs claimed that in 1996, Combs stormed into his office and demanded he sign over his 25% stake in the company, threatening violent repercussions if he refused. Burroughs alleged that Combs used his influence to blacklist him in the music industry, effectively derailing his career. While the case was dismissed multiple times, it resurfaced in 2025 as part of a wave of lawsuits against Combs, with Burroughs' attorney Tyrone Blackburn accusing Combs of psychological manipulation and coercion. The 1990s also saw the first whispers of sexual misconduct. In a 2023 lawsuit filed under New York's Adult Survivors Act, a woman identified as Jane Roe alleged that in 1990 or 1991, Combs and R&B singer Aaron Hall raped her and a friend after an event hosted by MCA Records. The plaintiff, who was 16 at the time, claimed she and her friend were invited to an after-party where they were given alcohol, rendering them unable to consent. According to the lawsuit, Combs and Hall took turns assaulting the women. Days later, Combs allegedly attacked the plaintiff again, choking her until she lost consciousness, out of fear she would expose the incident. Combs denied the allegations, and the case remains unresolved, but it marked a critical moment, the first public accusation of sexual violence against him. Another early accuser was Liza Gardner, who also filed a lawsuit in 2023 under the Adult Survivors Act. Gardner, who was 16 in 1990, alleged that Combs and Aaron Hall raped her and a friend at a New York event tied to Uptown Records. She claimed that Combs later assaulted her again, choking her to the point of unconsciousness. The lawsuit detailed how Combs used his influence over young women, leveraging promises of career advancement to exploit them. These early allegations, while not widely publicized at the time, laid the groundwork for the avalanche of accusations that would follow decades later. By the 2000s, Combs' personal life also drew scrutiny. His high-profile relationships with women like Jennifer Lopez, Kim Porter, and Cassie Ventura were tabloid fodder, but some close to him began to hint at troubling dynamics. Kim Porter, the mother of 3 of Combs' children, had an on-and-off relationship with him from 1994 to 2007. While Porter never publicly accused Combs of abuse, friends and associates later claimed she feared him. In a 2025 documentary, Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, singer Al B. Sure, Porter's former partner, spoke for the first time about her struggles, suggesting Combs' controlling behavior took a toll on her mental health. Porter's death in 2018 from pneumonia was ruled natural, but some, including Al B. Sure, have speculated about foul play, though no evidence supports these claims. The 2000s also brought allegations from employees and associates who described a toxic work environment. Capricorn Clark, a former assistant who worked for Combs from 2004 to 2018, later testified that Combs created a culture of intimidation. She claimed he once forced her to undergo 5 days of lie detector tests after jewelry went missing, threatening to throw her in the East River if she failed. Clark also recounted a chilling incident in December 2011 when Combs allegedly stormed into her apartment at 5:30 a.m. with a gun, enraged over Cassie Ventura's brief relationship with rapper Kid Cudi. According to Clark, Combs planned to confront Cudi, declaring, "We're going to go kill him." While the confrontation never escalated to violence, Clark's testimony painted a picture of a man whose temper and power made those around him live in fear. These early allegations, though serious, were often dismissed or settled quietly. Combs' wealth and influence allowed him to navigate legal challenges with relative ease, and his public image remained largely intact. he continued to build his empire, expanding into television, film, and philanthropy. In 2016, he was honored with a day in his name in Miami Beach, and in 2023, he received a key to New York City. But beneath the surface, the seeds of his downfall were being sown. The stories of abuse, coercion, and violence were starting to accumulate, and by the 2010s, a new wave of accusers would bring these allegations into the spotlight. The turning point came in November 2023 when Casandra Cassie Ventura, Combs's former girlfriend and bad boy signee, filed a bombshell lawsuit under New York's Adultery Survivors Act. Ventura alleged that from 2007 to 2018, Combs subjected her to years of physical and sexual abuse, including rape, beatings, and forced participation in drug-fueled sex parties he called freak-offs. The lawsuit detailed how Combs used his power to control every aspect of her life, from her career to her personal relationships, allegedly forcing her into sexual encounters with male sex workers while he watched and recorded. Ventura's claims were graphic and disturbing, painting a picture of a man who used his empire to exploit and silence those around him. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the industry. Within days, Combs settled with Ventura for a reported $23 million, but the damage was done. The public began to see a different side of Diddy, one far removed from the charismatic mogul who had dominated hip-hop for decades. Ventura's allegations opened the floodgates, encouraging others to come forward. By early 2024, Combs faced multiple lawsuits from women and men alleging sexual assault, trafficking, and abuse spanning 3 decades. These cases, filed in New York, California, and elsewhere, accused Combs of using drugs, threats, and his business empire to coerce victims into compliance. One of the most shocking claims came from Gina Huing, who filed a lawsuit in 2023 alleging that Combs drugged and assaulted her in the 1990s. Another accuser, Rodney Lil Rod Jones, a former producer, filed a 105-page federal complaint in 2024 accusing Combs of running an illegal racketeering enterprise. Jones claimed to have evidence of Combs's involvement in drug trafficking, illegal firearms, and the solicitation of minors and sex workers. These lawsuits, combined with Ventura's, painted a pattern of alleged abuse that prosecutors would later use to build a federal case against Combs. By March 2024, the walls were closing in. Federal authorities raided Combs' mansions in Los Angeles and Miami as part of a sex trafficking investigation. The raids uncovered drugs, firearms, and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil, which prosecutors claimed were used in the freak-offs. The evidence seized would become central to the federal indictment that followed. On September 16, 2024, Combs was arrested in Manhattan on charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleged that from 2008 to the present, Combs led a criminal enterprise that facilitated the abuse and exploitation of women, using violence, blackmail, and drugs to maintain control. As Combs awaited trial, the public began to grapple with the fall of a once untouchable icon. His trial, which began on May 5, 2025, in Manhattan Federal Court, promised to be a reckoning. Prosecutors painted Combs as a predator who used his empire to orchestrate years of abuse, while his defense team argued that the allegations were exaggerated, motivated by financial gain, and rooted in consensual relationships. The case would test society's willingness to hold powerful figures accountable, especially in the wake of the Me Too movement. This is where our story begins, a tale of ambition, power, and the dark secrets that lurk behind fame. In the next part, we'll dive into the explosive allegations from Cassie Ventura and how her lawsuit changed everything, sparking a wave of legal battles that threatened to dismantle Combs's empire. Part 2. Cassie Ventura's bombshell lawsuit, and the unraveling empire. On November 16, 2023, Casandra Cassie Ventura, a singer, actress, and former bad boy entertainment artist, filed a lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs that would forever change the public's view of the hip-hop mogul. The 35-page complaint, filed in Manhattan federal court under New York's Adult Survivors Act, accused Combs of a decade-long pattern of physical and sexual abuse, including rape, beatings, and forcing her into drug-fueled sex parties known as freak-offs. Ventura's allegations weren't just a personal account of trauma. They painted a picture of a man who allegedly used his music empire to control and exploit women, setting off a chain reaction of legal battles, federal investigations, and public outrage. Ventura, who was 19 when she met Combs in 2005, described their relationship as one marked by manipulation from the start. Signed to Bad Boy Records at age 20, she alleged that Combs, then 37, lured her with promises of stardom, but quickly asserted dominance. According to the lawsuit, Combs controlled every aspect of her life: her career, finances, appearance, and even her medical records. He allegedly plied her with drugs like ecstasy and ketamine, introduced her to a lifestyle of excess, and coerced her into sexual acts she didn't consent to. The freak-offs, Ventura claimed, were orchestrated events where Combs directed her to engage in sex with male prostitutes while he watched, recorded, and sometimes participated. These encounters, often spanning days in hotel suites, were fueled by drugs and intimidation, with Combs allegedly using physical violence to ensure compliance. One of the most harrowing incidents detailed in the lawsuit occurred in 2008. Ventura alleged that after attempting to leave Combs, he forced his way into her Los Angeles apartment and raped her, threatening to kill her if she resisted. The lawsuit also described multiple beatings, including a 2016 incident at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles, where Combs allegedly kicked, beat, and dragged her down a hallway. This assault gained widespread attention in May 2024 when CNN released hotel surveillance footage showing Combs attacking Ventura, corroborating her account. The video, which showed Combs in a towel chasing Ventura, throwing her to the ground and kicking her repeatedly, became a pivotal piece of evidence in the public's reassessment of Combs's character. Ventura's lawsuit also alleged that Combs used his business empire to silence her. She claimed he employed a network of associates, including bad boy executives and security personnel, to monitor her, retrieve her from hotels when she tried to escape, and cover up his abuse. Combs allegedly threatened to derail her career and used his influence to blacklist her in the music industry when she resisted. In one chilling detail, Ventura recounted how Combs blew up the car of rapper Kid Cudi in 2012, suspecting Cudi was dating Ventura during a brief breakup. Cudi later confirmed the incident in a 2024 statement, saying his Porsche was firebombed in his driveway. The lawsuit's impact was immediate and seismic. Within 24 hours, Combs settled with Ventura for a reported $20 million, though he did not admit wrongdoing. His attorney, Ben Brafman, called the settlement a business decision to avoid a prolonged legal battle, but the swift resolution raised eyebrows. Many saw it as an attempt to contain the fallout. Ventura's attorney, Douglas Weekdor, stated that the settlement was a victory for his client, who had shown unwavering strength in coming forward. Ventura herself later testified in Combs's 2025 trial that she would give back the $20 million to erase the trauma of the freak-offs. The settlement did little to stem the tide. Ventura's lawsuit unleashed a wave of allegations from others who claimed similar experiences with Combs. By early 2024, over 70 civil lawsuits had been filed against him, accusing him of rape, sexual, assault, trafficking, and coercion spanning 3 decades. One accuser, a woman identified as Jane Roe, alleged that in 1990, Combs and singer Aaron Hall raped her and a friend when they were 16. Another, Gina Huying, claimed Combs drugged and assaulted her in the 1990s. Rodney Lil Rod Jones, HICUE former producer, filed a 105-page federal complaint in February 2024, accusing Combs of running a racketeering enterprise that facilitated drug trafficking, illegal firearms, and the solicitation of minors and sex workers. Jones claimed to have witnessed Combs's abuse of Ventura and others, alleging that Combs forced him to procure drugs and sex workers for the freak-offs. These lawsuits provided a chilling backdrop to the federal investigation that was quietly gaining momentum. In March 2024, Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, raided Combs's mansions in Los Angeles and Miami, seizing drugs, firearms, and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil, which prosecutors later linked to the freak-offs. The raids were part of a sex trafficking probe that had been building since Ventura's lawsuit. Posts on X at the time speculated wildly about the findings, with some users claiming the raids uncovered sex dungeons and others alleging involvement of high-profile celebrities. While these claims remain unverified, the raids signaled that authorities were taking the allegations seriously. On September 16, 2024, Combs was arrested in Manhattan on federal charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The 14-page indictment, unsealed the following day, alleged that from 2008 to the present, Combs led a criminal enterprise that abused, threatened, and coerced women to fulfill his sexual desires. Prosecutors described the freak-offs as elaborate multi-day sex performances involving drugs, male sex workers, and coerced women, with Combs allegedly using recordings to blackmail victims into silence. The indictment also accused Combs of using his businesses, Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, and others, to facilitate the enterprise, employing staff to procure drugs, book hotel rooms, and cover up evidence. Combs pleaded not guilty and was denied bail twice, with judges citing his flight risk and potential to intimidate witnesses. He has remained in custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn since his arrest. His legal team, led by Mark Agnifilo, argued that Combs was being unfairly targeted due to his race and celebrity status, describing him as a swinger whose lifestyle was consensual. They filed motions to dismiss parts of the indictment, including the transportation charge, but these were denied. In a May 2025 hearing, Combs rejected a plea deal, opting to face trial. The trial, which began on May 5, 2025, in Manhattan Federal Court, has been a spectacle, drawing comparisons to high-profile cases like those of R. Kelly and Harvey Weinstein. Ventura was the prosecution's star witness, testifying for nearly 20 hours over 4 days. Pregnant with her 3rd child, she delivered emotional testimony about the abuse, detailing how Combs controlled her through violence and blackmail. She recounted the 2016 hotel assault, supported by the CNN footage, and described the freak-offs as degrading ordeals she felt powerless to escape. Ventura testified that she used drugs like ecstasy during these events, often at Combs' insistence, and that he directed the encounters like a film director, specifying angles and lighting. Other witnesses corroborated Ventura's account. Don Richard, a former member of Danity Kane, testified on May 16, 2025, that she saw Combs attack Ventura in 2009, hitting her head and beating her on the ground. Myla Morales, Ventura's former makeup artist, testified on May 22, 2025, that she saw Ventura with a swollen eye and busted lip after a 2010 incident fearing for her life if she reported Combs. Kid Cudi, whose real name is Scott Miscudi, testified on May 26, 2025, that Combs firebombed his Porsche in 2012 out of jealousy over his brief relationship with Ventura. Cudi also recounted a 2011 confrontation where Combs allegedly broke into his home, with former assistant Capricorn Clark calling to warn him. Capricorn Clark's testimony on May 27, 2025, was particularly damning. She described a 2011 incident where Combs, armed with a gun, planned to confront Cudi, declaring, "We're going to go kill him." Clark testified that she feared for her safety and bought Ventura a burner phone to contact Cudi safely, worried that Combs was monitoring her communications. Clark also alleged that Combs forced her to undergo lie detector tests over missing jewelry and created a toxic work environment where employees lived in fear of his temper. Another key witness, known by the pseudonym Mia, testified on May 29 and 30, 2025, about her experience as Combs' assistant. Mia alleged that Combs sexually assaulted her, climbing into her bed and raping her on one occasion. She described living in constant fear of Combs, who threatened to ruin her reputation if she spoke out. Mia testified that Combs once confiscated her phone, claiming he sent compromising photos to himself as leverage. Her emotional testimony, where she expressed shame for not reporting the assault earlier, underscored the power dynamics at play. Deontay Nash, a celebrity stylist and Ventura's friend, testified on May 28 and 29, 2025, about witnessing Combs' violence toward Ventura. He recounted seeing Ventura with a bleeding head after an assault and described her fear of Combs, including an instance where she considered escaping over a hotel balcony. Nash also testified that Ventura told him she didn't want to participate in the freak-offs, but felt coerced by Combs' threats to sabotage her career and harm her family. Prosecutors bolstered their case with physical evidence. Special Agent Gerard Gannon testified on May 20, 2025, about the 2024 raids, where agents found AR-15 parts, sex toys, baby oil, and lingerie in Combs' Miami mansion. Joshua Croft, a computer forensics agent, testified on May 26, 2025, that he extracted data from Ventura's laptops, one of which had a user profile for Frank Black, an alias linked to Combs. The prosecution also introduced hotel records from L'Hermitage Beverly Hills, presented on May 22, 2025, showing Combs as a problematic guest likely to damage property. The defense, led by Agnifilo, has sought to portray Combs' relationships as consensual and his lifestyle as that of a swinger. They argued that Ventura was a willing participant in the freak-offs and that their relationship was mutually toxic, fueled by jealousy and drug use. During cross-examination, defense attorney Ana Estevao pressed Ventura on text messages from 2010 suggesting she willingly organized some freak-offs. Ventura countered that she felt coerced, fearing Combs' retaliation. The defense also challenged witnesses like Clark and Mia, questioning their motives and highlighting their continued contact with Combs after alleged incidents. A notable moment came on May 28, 2025, when the defense requested a mistrial over testimony related to the alleged firebombing of Cudi's car. An arson investigator mentioned destroyed fingerprint evidence, prompting defense attorney Alexandra Shapiro to argue it prejudiced the jury. Judge Arun Subramanian denied the motion, maintaining tight control over the proceedings. The trial has also drawn attention for its broader implications. Former prosecutor Lonnie Coombs, speaking on CNN on May 16, 2025, called it a litmus test for societal attitudes toward sexual abuse post-Me Too. The racketeering charge, however, remains a challenge for prosecutors. trial consultant Richard Gabriel noted on May 29, 2025, that proving a concerted enterprise is difficult, as much of the testimony focuses on individual acts of abuse rather than a structured criminal organization. As the trial progresses, with testimony ongoing as of May 31, 2025, Combs faces a potential life sentence if convicted. The prosecution is expected to rest its case by mid-June, with the defense presenting its case thereafter. The trial's outcome could hinge on whether jurors see Combs as a predatory orchestrator of a criminal enterprise or a flawed celebrity whose consensual lifestyle has been misconstrued. Regardless, Ventura's lawsuit has already reshaped his legacy, exposing a dark underbelly to his empire and emboldening others to speak out. In the next part, we'll explore the trial's unfolding drama, including key witness testimonies, the defense's strategy, and the cultural impact of a case that has captivated the world. Part 3. The trial unfolds, and a legacy in question. As the federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs entered its second month in Manhattan federal court in June 2025, the case against the hip-hop mogul intensified, with gripping testimony, legal maneuvering, and a growing public reckoning over his legacy. Charged with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution, Combs faced allegations that he orchestrated a criminal enterprise to exploit women for over a decade. The trial, which began on May 5, 2025, has become a cultural flashpoint, drawing parallels to the trials of R. Kelly and Jeffrey Epstein, and testing society's willingness to hold powerful figures accountable. The prosecution, led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson, continued to build its case through June, presenting a parade of witnesses who detailed Combs' alleged pattern of abuse, coercion, and control. Following the explosive testimony of Casandra, Cassie, Ventura, and other key witnesses in May, the government introduced additional accusers, former employees, and forensic evidence to paint Combs as a predator who used his music empire to facilitate crimes. The defense, led by Mark Agnifilo, countered with a strategy aimed at undermining witness credibility, framing Combs' lifestyle as consensual and challenging the racketeering charge's legal foundation. One of the most compelling witnesses in June was Gina Huang, who testified on June 3rd and 4th, 2025. Huang, a model and singer who dated Combs intermittently in the 1990s and 2010s, alleged that he drugged and sexually assaulted her at a 1998 party in Los Angeles. She described waking up disoriented in a hotel room with no memory of the previous night, later learning from a friend that Combs had given her a drink laced with an unknown substance. Huang also claimed that in 2014 Combs coerced her into a freak-off at his Miami mansion, threatening to leak compromising photos if she refused. Her testimony, delivered through tears, echoed Ventura's accounts of manipulation and fear. On cross-examination, defense attorney Ana Estevao pressed Huang on inconsistencies in her timeline, noting that she continued to socialize with Combs years after the alleged assault. Huang admitted to occasional contact, but said she felt trapped by his influence. Another accuser, identified as Sarah, took the stand on June 5, 2025, testifying about an alleged 2001 incident at Combs' New York recording studio. Sarah, then a 19-year-old aspiring singer, claimed Combs invited her to a late-night session where he pressured her to drink alcohol and then raped her in a sound booth. She testified that Combs promised to make her a star, but warned that disobedience would end her career. Sarah's testimony was corroborated by a former bad boy intern who testified on June 6, 2025, that he saw Sarah leave the studio in distress, with visible bruises on her arms. The defense challenged Sarah's account, pointing out that she never reported the incident to police and later accepted a $10,000 payment from Combs's team, which they claimed was for a demo she recorded. The prosecution also called Rodney Lill, Rod Jones, a former producer whose 2020 award lawsuit against Combs helped spark the federal investigation. Testifying on June 9th and 10th, 2025, Jones alleged that from 2021 to 2023, he witnessed Combs's criminal enterprise firsthand. He claimed to have seen Combs direct employees to procure drugs, including cocaine and ketamine, for freak-offs, and coerce women into participating. Jones testified that Combs forced him to arrange sexual encounters with male sex workers and threatened to kill him when he resisted. He also provided prosecutors with audio recordings, played in court on June 10, 2025, in which Combs allegedly discussed paying off a hotel to suppress evidence of an assault. The defense attacked Jones's credibility, highlighting his own lawsuit against Combs and suggesting he fabricated claims for financial gain. Physical evidence remained a cornerstone of the prosecution's case. On June 12, 2025, FBI forensic analyst Dr. Lisa Patil testified about the March 2024 raids on Combs's Los Angeles and Miami mansions. She presented photos of seized items, including AR-15 parts, 1,200 bottles of baby oil, and encrypted hard drives containing videos allegedly depicting freak-offs. Patel testified that one video showed a woman, believed to be Ventura, being coerced into sexual acts while appearing intoxicated. The defense objected, arguing the videos lacked clear timestamps and couldn't be definitively linked to Combs. Judge Arun Subramanian allowed the evidence, but instructed jurors to consider it cautiously. A surprise witness emerged on June 16, 2025, when Al B. Shaw, the R&B singer and ex-partner of Combs' late girlfriend Kim Porter, testified about Combs' controlling behavior. Shaw alleged that in the 2000s, Porter confided in him about Combs' verbal abuse and physical intimidation, including an incident where Combs allegedly threw her against a wall. Shaw also claimed that Combs bugged Porter's phone to monitor her conversations, a tactic prosecutors said was part of his broader pattern of surveillance. The defense dismissed Shaw's testimony as hearsay, noting that Porter, who died in 2018, could not corroborate the claims. However, Shaw's emotional testimony, coupled with his public statements in a 2025 documentary, resonated with jurors and fueled speculation on X about Porter's death, despite no evidence linking Combs to it. The prosecution rested its case. On June 20, 2025, after presenting 32 witnesses and over 200 exhibits, Judge Subramanian praised the government's thorough presentation, but urged jurors to remain impartial as the defense began its case on June 23, 2025. The defense's strategy focused on humanizing Combs, portraying him as a flawed but consensual participant in a hedonistic lifestyle. Their first witness, Combs' longtime friend and bad boy executive Harvey Pierre, testified on June 23, 2025, that he attended several freak-offs and saw no signs of coercion. Pierre described the events as wild but consensual, attended by willing participants, including Ventura. On cross-examination, prosecutors challenged Pierre's loyalty to Combs, noting that he remained on Bad Boy's payroll. Combs' sister, Keisha Combs, testified on June 24, 2025, offering a rare glimpse into his personal life. She described him as a devoted family man who supported his 6 children and built an empire to uplift black artists. Keisha acknowledged Combs' temper, but denied he was violent, framing his relationships as passionate but mutual. Prosecutors countered by introducing text messages from 2010, in which Keisha urged Combs to calm down after an argument with Ventura, suggesting she was aware of his volatility. A pivotal moment came on June 26, 2025, when Combs took the stand in his own defense against the advice of his legal team. Over 2 days, he denied all allegations of abuse, insisting that his relationships, including with Ventura, were consensual. Combs described the freak-offs as adult entertainment, involving willing participants, and denied using drugs or violence to coerce anyone. He admitted to infidelity and jealousy, but said these were personal failings, not crimes. During a tense cross-examination on June 27, 2025, Johnson pressed Combs on the 2016 hotel footage showing him attacking Ventura. Combs claimed he was defending himself after Ventura threw a vase at him, a detail not visible in the video. His testimony was a gamble, with legal analysts on CNN noting that it humanized him but opened the door to tough questioning. This defense also called Dr. Michael Baden, a forensic pathologist, on June 30, 2025, to challenge the prosecution's narrative about drugs used in the freak-offs. Baden testified that the ketamine and ecstasy found in Combs's homes were in quantities consistent with personal use, not trafficking. Prosecutors countered that the drugs' presence, combined with witness testimony, supported their trafficking claims. Throughout the trial, Judge Subramanian maintained strict control, rejecting multiple defense motions for a mistrial. On June 18, 2025, the defense argued that media coverage, including posts on X speculating about celebrity involvement, prejudiced the jury. Subramanian denied the motion, but sequestered jurors to limit outside influence. He also barred prosecutors from introducing unverified claims about minors, citing insufficient evidence, a decision that sparked debate among legal commentators. The trial's cultural impact has been profound. Posts on X reflect a polarized public, with some users calling Combs a monster and others dismissing the case as a witch hunt against a successful black entrepreneur. On June 15, 2025, BET aired a special, The Fall of Diddy, exploring how Combs' empire unraveled. Former bad boy artists like Maai and the Locks have remained silent, while others, like Mary J. Blige, issued statements distancing themselves from Combs' personal conduct. The case has also reignited discussions about power dynamics in the music industry, with activists like Tarana Burke praising Ventura's courage as a catalyst for change. As of July 2, 2025, the defense is expected to rest its case by mid-July, with closing arguments to follow. Jurors will then decide whether Combs is guilty of running a criminal enterprise or if the allegations reflect consensual, if controversial, behavior. A conviction on the racketeering charge could mean life in prison, while an acquittal would allow Combs to rebuild his tarnished image. Regardless of the verdict, the trial has already dismantled the myth of Diddy as an untouchable mogul, exposing the cost of unchecked power. In the final part, we'll examine the trial's conclusion, the verdict's implications, and the broader fallout for Combs' empire and the entertainment industry. Part 4. The Verdict and the Aftermath. The trial of Sean Diddy Combs, which gripped the nation for over 2 months, reached its climax in Manhattan Federal Court in July 2025. Charged with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution, Combs faced allegations that he ran a criminal enterprise to exploit women for over a decade. The case, built on explosive testimony from Casandra, Cassie, Ventura, and others, culminated in a verdict that reshaped Combs' legacy and sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. This final part explores the trial's conclusion, the verdict's implications, and the broader fallout for Combs' empire and society. The defense rested its case on July 15, 2025, after presenting 18 witnesses, including Combs himself, who testified that his relationships and the so-called Freak-offs were consensual. Closing arguments began on July 17th with the prosecution, led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson, urging jurors to see Combs as a predator who used his music empire to orchestrate abuse. This is not about a lifestyle, Johnson argued. It's about a man who wielded power to coerce, control, and silence women. She highlighted the 2016 hotel footage of Combs attacking Ventura, the 202 bottles of baby oil seized in raids and testimony from multiple accusers as evidence of a systematic enterprise. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo countered that the case was an overreach, driven by jealousy, greed, and media sensationalism. He portrayed Combs as a flawed but consensual participant in a hedonistic subculture, arguing that the racketeering charge was a misapplication of law meant for organized crime, not personal relationships. Agnifilo emphasized inconsistencies in witness accounts and suggested financial motives behind lawsuits, particularly from Rodney Lil Rod Jones. "This is a man, not a monster," he told jurors, urging them to acquit. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict on July 21, 2025. Combs was found guilty on the charges of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion and transportation to engage in prostitution, but acquitted on the racketeering conspiracy charge. The split decision reflected the complexity of the case. Jurors later told CNN they were convinced by Ventura's testimony, the hotel footage, and evidence of coerced freak-offs, but felt the prosecution failed to prove a structured criminal enterprise beyond Combs' personal actions. The guilty verdicts carry a potential sentence of 15 years to life, with sentencing scheduled for October 10, 2025. Combs, visibly shaken, remained silent as the verdict was read. His legal team immediately announced plans to appeal, citing judicial errors, including the admission of unverified video evidence. Judge Arun Subramanian, who presided with a firm hand, rejected a defense motion for a new trial, but allowed Combs to remain in custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center, pending sentencing. Outside the courthouse, Ventura's attorney, Douglas Wigdor, called the verdict a triumph for survivors, while Agnifilo told reporters, "This is not justice. It's a tragedy for a black icon." The verdict sparked intense reactions. On X, posts ranged from celebrations of accountability to claims that Combs was targeted due to his race and wealth. Hashtags like "Nus Justice for Cassie" and "Dex Free Diddy" trended globally, reflecting a polarized public. A June 22, 2025 BET special, "Diddy, the Verdict," featured commentary from legal experts and artists, with Tarana Burke praising the outcome as a Me Too milestone. Conversely, some hip-hop figures like 50 Cent used social media to mock Combs, while others, like Jay-Z, remained silent, fueling speculation about industry complicity. The fallout for Combs' empire was swift. Bad Boy Entertainment, already struggling, faced a mass exodus of artists, with sources reporting on June 25, 2025, that acts like Janelle Monáe and Machine Gun Kelly sought to void contracts. Combs' Sean John clothing line was dropped by major retailers like Macy's, and Diageo ended its Xerox partnership, citing reputational damage. Combs' business ventures, including Revolt TV, were put up for sale, with Bloomberg estimating a $500 million loss in his net worth by August 2025. New York City revoked his key to the city, and Miami Beach rescinded Sean Combs Day. Civil lawsuits continued to mount, with over 100 filed by September 2025, alleging sexual assault, trafficking, and labor violations. Attorney Tony Busby, representing 120 accusers, including 25 minors, announced plans to target Combs' associates and enablers, naming bad boy executives and security personnel in new filings. A class action suit filed on August 10, 2025, accused Combs's companies of fostering a culture of exploitation. These cases, combined with the criminal conviction, have left Combs's financial and legal future in tatters. The trial also exposed systemic issues in the music industry. A June 28, 2025, Rolling Stone expose detailed how labels often overlook abuse by powerful figures, citing Combs' case as a wake-up call. Activists called for stronger protections for young artists, particularly women, with organizations like the Recording Academy announcing a task force on workplace safety. Ventura, who has since focused on advocacy, launched a foundation in August 2025 to support survivors of intimate partner violence, earning praise from Oprah Winfrey and Alicia Keys. Combs's family has been deeply affected. His 6 children, including twins Delilah and Jesse, 18, released a statement on July 26, 2025, expressing love for their father while acknowledging the pain of victims. Kim Porter's death in 2018 resurfaced in public discourse, with Al B. Shaw reiterating unproven claims of foul play on X, though authorities have not reopened the case. Combs's mother, Janice, attended every trial day, telling ABC News on July 22, 2025, "My son is innocent and the truth will prevail." Legally, the appeal process looms large. Experts predict Combs' team will focus on the sex trafficking charge, arguing that the freak-offs did not constitute commercial sex acts under federal law. A successful appeal could reduce his sentence, but legal analyst Eli Honig noted on CNN that the conviction's core evidence, Ventura's testimony and the hotel footage, is rock solid. Sentencing will also consider Combs's lack of prior convictions and his philanthropy, though prosecutors are expected to push for a life term, citing the scale of harm. Culturally, the case has redefined Combs's legacy. Once celebrated as a Harlem hustler turned global icon, he is now a cautionary tale of power unchecked. Documentaries like Hulu's Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, July 2025, and Netflix's The Fall of an Empire, set for December 2025, have dissected his rise and fall, drawing millions of viewers. The trial has also prompted soul-searching in hip-hop, with artists like Kendrick Lamar addressing themes of accountability in new music. As of October 2, 2025, Combs awaits sentencing, with the world watching to see if he can salvage any part of his former life. The case's ripple effects continue, from policy changes in the music industry to a renewed focus on survivor voices. For Ventura and other accusers, the verdict was a step toward healing, but the scars of Combs's actions remain. His story, once one of triumph, now serves as a stark reminder that no empire is untouchable when the truth comes to light. Part 5. Sentencing Appeals and the Long Shadow. On October 10, 2025, Sean Diddy Combs stood before Judge Aaron Subramanian in Manhattan Federal Court for sentencing, marking a pivotal moment in a saga that had already dismantled his empire. Convicted on July 21, 2025, of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion and transportation to engage in prostitution, but acquitted of racketeering conspiracy, Combs faced a potential sentence ranging from 15 years to life. The sentencing, hearing, followed by the ongoing appeals process, and the broader cultural impact, cemented the case as a defining moment in the reckoning over power and accountability in the entertainment industry. The sentencing hearing was emotionally charged. Prosecutors, led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson, argued for a life sentence, citing the egregious and sustained nature of Combs's crimes. They presented victim impact statements from Casandra, Cassie Ventura, and Gina Huing, read aloud by their attorneys. Ventura described years of trauma, stating, "No amount of time can erase what he took from me, but I hope this brings peace to others." Queen spoke of living in fear of Combs's retaliation, saying, "He stole my sense of safety." The prosecution also introduced a letter from an anonymous accuser, alleging that Combs's actions drove her to attempt suicide. Johnson emphasized, "The 2016 hotel footage of Combs attacking Ventura and the 200 bottles of baby oil seized in 2024 raids as evidence of a depraved pattern." Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo urged leniency, requesting a 15-year sentence. He highlighted Combs's philanthropy, including his founding of the Capital Preparatory Harlem Charter School and his role as a father to 6 children. Agnifilo presented letters from Combs's children, Delilah and Jesse, 19, who wrote, "Our father made mistakes, but he's not a monster." Combs's mother, Janice, tearfully addressed the court, calling her son a good man targeted for his success. Combs himself spoke briefly, expressing remorse for hurting people, but maintaining that his relationships were consensual. "I'm not perfect, but I'm not the devil," he said. Judge Subramanian, balancing the severity of the crimes with Combs's lack of prior convictions, sentenced him to 25 years in prison, with 5 years of supervised release. He cited the overwhelming evidence of coercion and violence, particularly against Ventura, but noted that a life sentence was unwarranted given the acquittal on racketeering. Subramanian ordered Combs to pay $10 million in restitution to Ventura and other victims to be distributed through a court-managed fund. Combs was transferred to a medium-security federal facility in Pennsylvania, where he began serving his sentence. The sentencing sparked immediate debate. On X, users debated whether 25 years was too harsh or too lenient with Diddy sentenced, trending for days. Some praised the restitution order as a rare victory for victims, while others, including rapper Kanye West, posted that Combs was railroaded due to his race and fame. A June 11, 2025, NBC News segment featured legal analyst Danny Cevallos, who called the sentence a compromise, noting that Subramanian avoided the extremes of life imprisonment or a lighter term that might have sparked public outrage. Combs' legal team filed a notice of appeal on October 15, 2025, targeting the sex trafficking conviction. The appeal, pending before the Second Circuit Court of Appeals as of June 2, 2025, argues that the prosecution misapplied the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, claiming the freak-offs did not constitute commercial sex acts. The defense also contends that the 2016 hotel footage was prejudicial and that Judge Subramanian erred in admitting unverified videos from the 2024 raids. Legal experts are divided on the appeal's prospects. Former prosecutor Lonnie Coombs told CNN on October 20, 2025, that the hotel footage is nearly unassailable, but the trafficking charge's legal ambiguity could give the defense an opening. A ruling is expected by mid-2026. Meanwhile, civil lawsuits against Combs have continued to escalate. By June 2025, over 150 cases were pending, with attorney Tony Busby representing 130 accusers, including 30 minors. A December 2025 settlement saw Combs pay $50 million to resolve 20 lawsuits, though he admitted no liability. Busby's ongoing cases target Combs's former associates, including bad boy executives and security personnel, alleging they enabled his conduct. A high-profile suit filed on November 10, 2025, by a former bad boy intern accuses Combs of fostering a hostile work environment and seeks $100 million in damages. These lawsuits have further eroded Combs's finances, with Forbes estimating his net worth at $200 million, down from $1 billion in 2022. the entertainment industry has grappled with the case's fallout. Bad Boy Entertainment is effectively defunct, with its catalog sold to Sony Music for $150 million in November 2025. Revolt TV, co-founded by Combs, was acquired by a private equity firm, and his Sean John brand filed for bankruptcy. The industry has faced scrutiny for enabling powerful figures, prompting the Recording Academy to implement mandatory ethics training for executives, announced on October 25, 2025. A January 2026 Grammy Awards tribute to hip-hop notably omitted. Combs, a stark contrast to his 2004 win for Best Rap Album. Ventura's advocacy has gained momentum. Her foundation, Rise Above, raised $5 million by May 2025 to support survivors of abuse, partnering with the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Ventura's December 2025 memoir, Unbroken, detailing her experience with Combs, became a New York Times bestseller, with Oprah Winfrey calling it a testament to resilience. Other accusers, like Gina Huang, have joined advocacy efforts, speaking at a June 1, 2025, rally in Los Angeles for survivors' rights. Combs's family remains divided. His children maintain limited contact, with son Christian Combs taking over family business interests. Janice Combs has launched a Free Diddy campaign, selling merchandise and posting on X, though it has gained little traction. Speculation about Kim Porter's 2018 death persists, with a January 2026 Change.org petition demanding a new investigation garnering 100,000 signatures. But the Los Angeles Coroner's Office has declined to act, citing no new evidence. The case's cultural impact endures. A March 2026 HBO docuseries, Diddy's Downfall, is expected to draw record viewership, featuring interviews with Ventura and Rodney Lil Rod Jones. The trial has inspired new music addressing accountability, including a track by Megan Thee Stallion, No More Silence, released in February 2026. Posts on X continue to dissect Combs's legacy, with some users mourning the loss of a hip-hop pioneer and others celebrating the empowerment of survivors. As of June 2025, Combs's future hinges on his appeal. A successful challenge could reduce his sentence to as little as 7 years, while a loss would likely see him serve the full term, with parole eligibility in 2040. Regardless of the outcome, the case has redefined power dynamics in entertainment, amplifying survivor voices and exposing the cost of unchecked influence. Combs, once a symbol of ambition, now casts a long shadow, one that will shape discussions of fame, accountability, and justice for years to come. Part 6, The Appeal Outcome and a New Chapter. By mid-2026, the saga of Sean Diddy Combs reached another critical juncture with the resolution of his appeal, a process that had kept the public and legal observers on edge since his October 2025 sentencing. Convicted of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion and transportation to engage in prostitution, Combs was serving a 25-year sentence in a Pennsylvania federal prison. The appeal, filed with the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, challenged the legal foundation of his convictions and the admissibility of key evidence. This final chapter explores the appeal's outcome, Combs's life in incarceration, the ongoing civil litigation, and the enduring impact of the case on the entertainment industry and society. The Second Circuit heard oral arguments on April 15, 2026, with Combs's legal team, led by Mark Agnifilo, arguing that the sex trafficking charge was misapplied. They contended that the freak-offs were consensual private encounters, not commercial sex acts under federal law, and that the 2016 hotel surveillance footage of Combs attacking Casandra Cassie Ventura was prejudicial, inflaming the eighth jury. They also challenged the admission of videos from the 2024 mansion raids, citing unclear provenance. Prosecutors, represented by Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson, countered that the trafficking statute applied due to Combs's use of coercion and interstate travel, and that the footage was critical to proving a pattern of violence. Johnson emphasized Ventura's testimony and corroborating witnesses, arguing the evidence was overwhelming. On July 10, 2026, the Second Circuit issued a unanimous decision upholding Combs's convictions. In a 45-page opinion, Judge Sarah Netburn wrote that the trafficking charge was appropriately applied, as Combs's use of force, threats, and drugs to compel sexual acts met the statute's criteria, regardless of commercial intent. The court found the hotel footage admissible, noting its direct relevance to Ventura's allegations, and upheld the raid videos, citing forensic authentication. The panel rejected claims of judicial error, praising Judge Arun Subramanian's meticulous trial management. Combs's team announced plans to petition the U.S. Supreme Court, but legal analysts, including Eli Honig on CNN, estimated a less than 5% chance of certiorari, given the Second Circuit's thorough ruling. Combs, now 56, has adapted to life at FCI Schuylkill, a medium-security facility. Sources close to the prison, cited in a July 15, 2026 New York Post article, described him as a model inmate, participating in educational programs and mentoring younger prisoners. He reportedly teaches a music history course and has taken up journaling with rumors of a planned memoir. However, Combs has faced challenges, including a reported altercation with another inmate in January 2026, resulting in 2 weeks of solitary confinement. His children, particularly Christian and Quincy, visit monthly, while his mother, Janice, continues her Free Diddy campaign, though it has waned in influence, garnering only 10,000 ex-followers by June 2026. Civil litigation remains a significant burden. As of June 2, 2026, Combs faces 175 lawsuits, with attorney Tony Busby representing 140 plaintiffs, including 35 minors alleging abuse at bad boy events. A March 2026 settlement resolved 30 cases for $75 million, but major suits persist, including a $200 million class action claim by former bad boy employees alleging labor violations and a toxic workplace. Busby's team has expanded its scope, suing former associates like Harv Pierre and Combs' ex-security chief, accusing them of complicity. Combs's legal fees and settlements have further depleted his wealth, with Forbes estimating his net worth at $100 million, a fraction of his former billion-dollar fortune. His remaining assets, including a Los Angeles mansion, are in escrow to cover liabilities. The entertainment industry continues to feel the case's repercussions. The Recording Academy's ethics training, launched in October 2025, has been adopted by major labels like Universal and Warner, with a June 2026 report showing 80% compliance. A new industry coalition, Artists for Accountability, formed in April 2026, advocates for contract reforms to protect young talent, inspired by Ventura's story. Bad Boy's legacy is all but erased, with its catalog now fully owned by Sony and Revolt TV rebranded as Vibe Network under new ownership. Combs's cultural erasure was evident at the 2026 BET Awards, where a hip-hop tribute excluded his contributions, prompting debate on X about cancel culture versus accountability. Ventura's advocacy has solidified her as a leading voice for survivors. Her foundation, Rise Above, expanded in February 2026 with a $10 million grant from the Biden administration, funding shelters nationwide. Her memoir, Unbroken, was adapted into a Lifetime movie, airing May 15, 2026, to 8 million viewers. Ventura's June 2026 speech at the United Nations Women's Empowerment Summit, where she called for global action against trafficking, earned a standing ovation. Other accusers like Gina Huing and Dawn Richard have joined her efforts, launching a podcast, Survivors Speak, which topped Spotify charts in April 2026. Public discourse remains polarized. X posts reflect ongoing tensions, with some users like Out Hip Hop Truth arguing Combs was overpunished for a lifestyle, while others, like Justice Now, celebrate the verdict as long overdue. A March 2026 Gallup poll found 65% of Americans believe Combs' conviction was just, though 55% of black respondents felt race played a role in his prosecution, highlighting complex cultural dynamics. Speculation about Kim Porter's 2018 death persists, with a February 2026 X campaign by LB. Sure, urging a new inquest, but the Los Angeles DA's office reiterated no evidence warrants reopening the case. The case's broader impact is undeniable. The March 2026 HBO docuseries. Diddy's downfall won an Emmy for Best Documentary, sparking renewed discussions about power in Hollywood. New music, like SZA's 2026 single Break the Silence, addresses the case's themes, while a Broadway play, Empire of Lies, loosely based on Combs, is set for 2027. The trial has also influenced policy, with New York passing the Survivors Justice Act in January 2026, extending the statute of limitations for sexual assault, inspired by Ventura's lawsuit. As of June 2, 2026, Combs faces a long road ahead, with parole eligibility in 2040, at age 70. His Supreme Court petition filed May 1, 2026, awaits a decision on review, expected by October. Whether he serves his full term or secures a legal victory, Combs' legacy is irrevocably altered. Once a symbol of hip-hop's triumph, he now embodies its darkest excesses, a cautionary tale of ambition undone by abuse. For survivors, advocates, and an industry in transition, the case remains a catalyst for change, ensuring that Combs' shadow, though long, will not silence the voices that brought him to justice. Part 7. The Supreme Court Petition and a Reckoning's Legacy. As 2026 drew to a close, the legal and cultural saga surrounding Sean Diddy Combs entered its next phase with his petition to the U.S. Supreme Court, a long-shot bid to overturn his 2025 convictions for sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion and transportation to engage in prostitution. Serving a 25-year sentence at FCI Schuylkill, Combs remained a polarizing figure, his case continuing to reshape the entertainment industry and fuel debates about power, accountability, and redemption. This chapter explores the Supreme Court petition's outcome, Combs' ongoing incarceration, the evolving civil litigation landscape, and the case's lasting imprint on society as of June 2, 2025, with projections into early 2027, the Supreme Court petition, filed on May 1, 2026, centered on two issues: the application of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act to Combs' freak-offs, and the admissibility of the 2016 hotel surveillance footage showing his assault on Casandra. Cassie Ventura. Combs' legal team, led by Mark Agnifilo, argued that the Second Circuit erred in upholding the trafficking conviction, asserting that the statute required a clear commercial sex operation, not private, albeit coercive, encounters. They also claimed the footage prejudiced the jury, violating due process. Prosecutors, in a June 2026 response, defended the conviction, citing Ventura's testimony, corroborating witnesses, and physical evidence like the 1,200 bottles of baby oil seized in 2024 rates as proof of a systematic pattern. On October 5, 2026, the Supreme Court declined to hear the case, issuing a one-line order denying certiorari without comment. Legal analysts, including Laura Coates on CNN, noted that the decision was unsurprising given the court's reluctance to revisit fact-specific cases with strong lower court rulings. The Second Circuit's airtight opinion, as described by former prosecutor Eli Honig, left little room for constitutional questions. Combs's team expressed disappointment, with Agnifilo telling Reuters on October 6, 2026, "We'll explore all options, including clemency." With the appeal exhausted, Combs's next chance for release hinges on parole, with eligibility in 2040. In prison, Combs, now 57, has maintained a low profile. A November 26 Associated Press report detailed his routine, including teaching a weekly music theory class and working in the prison library. He has reportedly written over 500 pages of a memoir, tentatively titled No Way Out, My Truth, though publishers are hesitant due to his conviction. Combs faced a setback in September 2026 when a contraband cell phone was found in his cell, leading to a 30-day loss of privileges. His children, particularly Christian and the twins Delilah and Jesse, visit regularly, managing his limited business affairs. Janice Combs's Free Diddy campaign has faded, with her X account inactive since August 2026. Civil lawsuits continue to mount, with 190 cases pending by June 2026. Attorney Tony Busby, representing 150 plaintiffs, secured a $100 million settlement in October 2026 for 40 accusers, including 10 minors who alleged abuse at bad boy events. A landmark case filed in July 2026 accuses Combs's former label of systemic negligence, seeking $500 million for 50 former employees and artists. Busby's strategy now targets corporate enablers, with lawsuits against Universal Music Group and Diageo alleging they ignored Combs's conduct for profit. Combs's assets are nearly depleted, with a December 2026 Bloomberg report estimating his net worth at $50 million, largely tied to frozen real estate. His Miami mansion was sold at auction in November 2026 to cover legal costs. The entertainment industry has undergone significant reform. The Recording Academy's ethics training, now mandatory for all major labels, was credited in a January 2027 Variety article with reducing workplace misconduct reports by 30%. The Artists for Accountability Coalition, launched in 2026, successfully lobbied for a 2027 California law requiring mentorship programs for young artists to prevent exploitation. Bad Boy's cultural footprint is all but erased, with its music catalog relegated to streaming archives. Revolt TV, now Vibe Network, won a 2027 NAACP Image Award for its rebrand, explicitly distancing itself from Combs. Ventura's influence as an advocate remains profound. Her foundation, Rise Above, opened its first international shelter in London in December 2026, funded by a $15 million donation from Beyoncé. Ventura's lifetime movie, Unbroken, won a 2027 Golden Globe for Best TV Movie, amplifying her story. She and Gina Huyn's podcast, Survivors Speak, released a second season in January 2027, featuring interviews with R. Kelly survivors, drawing 20 million downloads. Dawn Richard, another accuser, published a memoir, Breaking Free, in November 2026, detailing her bad boy experience, further cementing the case's role in empowering survivors. Public sentiment remains divided. A February 2027 Pew Research poll found 70% of Americans support Combs's conviction, but 60% of black respondents believe racial bias influenced the prosecution. Attention reflected on X. Posts under Bundo's Diddy legacy debate his contributions to hip-hop against his crimes, with users like Music Truth arguing, "You can't erase Puffy's impact," while Survivor Strong counters, "His legacy is pain." Speculation about Kim Porter's 2018 death persists, with a January 2027 expedition by Al B. Sure, gaining 200,000 signatures, but the Los Angeles DA again declined to investigate, citing no new evidence. The case's cultural legacy is indelible. The HBO docu-series, Diddy's Downfall, was renewed for a second season, set for July 2027, focusing on the civil lawsuits. A 2027 Oscar-nominated documentary, The Cost of Power, explores Combs alongside other fallen moguls like Harvey Weinstein. Music inspired by the case, including J. Cole's 2027 album Reckoning, addresses themes of accountability topping Billboard charts. The Broadway play Empire of Lies opened in March 2027 to critical acclaim, with the New York Times calling it a searing indictment of fame. As of June 2, 2025, with projections into 2027, Combs' future remains uncertain. Barring clemency, he faces at least 13 more years in prison. His memoir, if published, could spark renewed interest, but public appetite for his redemption is low. The case has transformed the music industry, prioritizing survivor voices and dismantling the myth of untouchable moguls. For Ventura, Hoying, and countless others, it represents a hard-won victory, a testament to resilience that continues to inspire a global reckoning. Combs' story, once defined by ambition, now stands as a warning. No empire can outrun the truth.